welcome. So nice to see all of you here, and I hope you'll enjoy your time and will enjoy eating what we're making today. So I'll first introduce myself. I'm Kelly Moore with the MSU Extension in Missoula County. So I actually work for MSU, but we have an office here in the county, and we have lots of good programs. So if you're ever interested in coming to visit, please do that. Today we're going to talk about rice balls, and those are pretty familiar to us now. It's kind of known as fast food anymore. And so we tend to kind of go and get takeout often, or my family usually used to when they were home. But it's so much more inexpensive to make it yourself. And that way you can kind of have an idea what the ingredients are and put things together the way you so choose. And today I'm going to use a recipe from Ellie Krieger is her name. She has been on the Food Network a few times, so we're going to borrow this recipe. I've used it before, and it's a great recipe. So anyway, today our word is going to be the power of purple. So if you look down at the end of our counter, you will see all the purple vegetables. This time of year, things are just kind of starting to come out. A few of those things came from much further south, I'm sure. But some might look familiar to you, some might not. And there's a reason why we're using all purple today. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're also, even the rice we use today, I will show you a little bit of that. We have a big pan of it here. This is called black rice or purple rice, if anybody's ever eaten this or familiar with it. And it's a great rice. I'm excited for you to try it because I think you'll really like it. In fact, purple rice has a lot more nutrition than eating brown rice. So it's a little bit harder to find. You can buy it in bulk at certain local health food stores or on Amazon. I'm sure you could order from them as well. Okay. So it's called forbidden rice for a reason. Does anybody happen to know? Anybody familiar with Chinese history? Yes.
Only the emperors were allowed to eat it.
Good, yes. So it was kind of a food for the aristocracy, right? So it wasn't available just to everybody. So that's why it was called that. And it has a very nutty, earthy flavor, a little chewy, a little sweet. So I'm excited to see what your opinion of it is, for sure. We're going to talk about 3 facts that have to do with purple foods. Purple or red. Some of these vegetables are a little bit on the red color scheme as well. So, and these are all very good for you. In fact, these are some of the best foods you can eat. And we're going to talk about flavonoids, anthocyanins, and phytochemicals. And I'm certainly not a dietitian or a chemist, so if I mispronounce any of those, just let me know, okay? So those are the 3 reasons why you want to try to choose the darker colored vegetables and fruits. Flavonoids that's what's responsible for the color, and it's the pigment. So does anybody know what is so important in the purple foods? It's a little different from some other vegetables. Okay, sure. Oh, sure.
I think it has something to do with capturing free radicals with antioxidants.
Okay. Well, there certainly has to do with antioxidants for sure. They kind of have some anti-inflammatory benefits too, and they're supposed to help protect cells from being damaged. So just how much of these you have to eat to make a difference, I'm sure you could find that as well, that information. But I just know a steady diet of these items, fruits and vegetables, really will make a difference in your staying healthy. Okay, so the antioxidants that fight inflammation, that's what anthocyanins is. So they're also antimicrobial, anti-obesity, and also help with heart health. Okay, So the phytochemicals are found in grains, beans, fruits, and vegetables. They're believed to protect cells from damage, and that helps prevent cancer. So it's certainly not a bad idea to try and eat as many of these as you can. And plus they taste so good too. That's the easy part for us, okay? So there's another book that I use a lot. I looked, and this book's still in print, but it's really a fun book called Eating in Color. And so each section will give you recipes for different colored fruits and vegetables. And let's see, things that you wouldn't necessarily choose to eat, but I've tried lots of recipes here, and they're very tasty. So that's a good resource. Also, you can go online always on a website, look up any extension materials. Those are always research-based, and you can count on those to be true. The American Heart Association talks about colors and how important that is. So we love eating and cooking, but when you know you're doing a good thing for yourself, it makes it a lot more enjoyable and satisfying for sure. So any questions so far? And if I am talking too fast or not loud enough, whatever, please let me know, okay? And I will slow down and talk louder. All right, so let me move these out of the way here. All right. So what are some things that you typically find in a rice bowl? Anybody? Or what do you like to find in your rice bowl? Or maybe you've never had one before or made one. Okay, and that's good. Then you'll be fine with what we put in this one today, right? So this is all vegetables. Of course, you can put meat and have a protein, but I just chose to do the vegetables today. So again, we're not going to be using all of these. I just wanted to be able to show you some of the choices for purple vegetables. We are going to use a purple carrot, or kind of a red carrot. So what else? We have some onions, pickled onions, and all this recipe actually is kind of in 3 parts. And the pickled onions you'll want to do ahead of time because they take a little bit of time. And you can buy pickled onions too, usually in the kind of the bulk section of a deli. So that's fine. This recipe also suggests kimchi. Does anybody familiar with kimchi? A lot of people make it themselves, or you can buy it too. So you can use that on this recipe. Let's see. What else? We're going to use some toppings like bean sprouts, some chopped nuts. We will be using something green today, some spinach. That's going to go in part of the recipe. And the purple rice will kind of be the star of the show, okay? Oh, I have a little bit of water boiling because the recipe calls for kind of wilting the vegetables. You can use kale as well in this. So we're going to just go ahead and put a little bit of that in. I have some water boiling, and I'm just going to use this to put the vegetables in because it'll take a few minutes to wilt. Okay. The rice, you can do that ahead of time, so because it takes quite a long time to do the rice. In rice, before you cook it, you want to always rinse it off first. Does anybody know why you would rinse that off? Just to kind of get rid of that starch that's on the outside. You know, rice will clump up unless you want it to be sushi rice, which of course you want that to be sticking together. But normally you want to rinse that starch off so it kind of falls loosely and doesn't get all bunched up. So I did that ahead of time. The first time I ever tasted purple rice was actually kind of more in a dessert. And it was cooked with coconut milk, which I love that. It was kind of a sweet pudding. I had a little passion fruit on the top. So one of the most favorite things I've ever eaten. So I've loved that rice ever since then. The only other thing too that you will need before you start, well, a pretty large bowl. This makes, I believe, about 4 servings, so it's quite a bit. And And if you want to serve it individual bowls, that's fine, but it's certainly enough for several people. So, okay, we're just going to keep that wilted down a little bit. Like I say, if there's any questions or comments, please just speak up. And so we're here to learn from one another, for sure. Okay. All right. What did I have here? These, I believe, were kind of unusual, and I thought they were radishes. And I know there's some people in our group today who would know for sure what these are. Bev, do you know what this? Okay. It is, yes. After I bought them, thinking they're radishes, and they are small turnips. So, which is kind of fun. Oh, but my memory of turnips, because everybody's got food memories, my grandma used to cut them and boil them and put like a pound of butter on them. So I still didn't know what turnips really tasted like. So when it's fun to grow different colors of vegetables, it just makes it more entertaining, and because you eat with your eyes too, so you want to make it look really nice. I'm going to use my lid to kind of keep some of that steam down there. That'll help for sure. All right. So I said 3 parts of this recipe. One was the rice, the other is the cooked vegetable, and, well, 4, sorry, the pickled onions, and then a sauce you make to pour over because you want it to have a little bit of flavor. There's, the rice is best if you serve it hot when you're putting this together, so that will be something when you make it on your own. The sauce itself has just a few ingredients. So it uses sesame oil, toasted sesame oil. Is everybody familiar with this? If you do a lot of Asian cooking or stir fries, you will use that. A little rice vinegar, which is a great thing. I use this for vinaigrettes and everything. So I'd never be without that stuff. And I'm going to use some soy sauce. But I like to use the low sodium because soy sauce is so salty, right? And I just feel like sometimes it overpowers things. So I just recommend you use the low sodium. And a lot of times, and probably a lot of you are the same way, I try a recipe and I think, wow, I think that would taste better with something else. Not that I'm saying I'm going to know better than Ellie there, but it calls for peanut oil, but instead I've substituted with like a little bit of peanut butter and then just heated it up a little bit, keep shaking it, and it actually adds a little more texture to it and interesting flavor. So just a thought for when you That's, wow, I knew somebody was going to ask that, Beth. I would say because, you know, you don't have to make that much dressing. This is what the recipe, the amount it called for. So I used about a teaspoon of peanut butter, but just keep tasting it. And if you could add a little bit more, I wouldn't go over a tablespoon for sure. You can make a peanut sauce as well, so, okay. See, now you can see how easy it is just to, if you have a steamer, then certainly use that, but it's easy to steam vegetables. Steaming keeps a lot of the nutrients. You're not losing a lot in the water that way, and it softens them up as well. So that's why. And at this point, I'm going to add a little bit more in there. The spinach cooks down so quickly. Again, we're trying to add as many colors and nutrition that we can. Let's see if we can just put all that in there. Pretty good. And spinach is pretty easy to grow, and usually it's considered more of a springtime vegetable, but we haven't had a whole lot of springtime yet, have we? So, okay, I'm going to just kind of toss that so it'll get cooked all at the same. There we go. All right. Okay. So I always kind of like to take just a little bit of a survey. How many of you consider yourselves as like very beginning cooks or? Okay. And it's okay. Don't be afraid to say that. Okay. Yeah. Or like it's not really your thing, and it's like it's okay. Okay. How many people like medium? Okay. That's what I would say. And what about professional kind of, or you would do it for? Yes. Well, there's got to be some middle ground too, but that would take too long if we could kind of go with that way. So, or professional, or that you love food so much you just try to cook as often as you can. So, okay, good, all right, yeah. We didn't say what you thought your results would be. I mean, we learn all the time by cooking, don't we? And it helps if you have people willing to try things out as you're doing it. All right. But I've always found a lot of things I thought I failed at cooking turned out to be whole new dishes, so don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. All right, I'm going to turn the heat off on that so it won't turn into mush. And it is very different cooking on a glass top compared to a gas stove, so I always have to really pay attention. Okay. Right. So textures and flavors, that's what makes a beautiful rice bowl. And just even cutting things up differently makes it more visually interesting. I mean, you can make a rice bowl and just, stir everything till it's just a mishmash, but you want to take a little bit more time for sure when you're doing rice bowls. So the carrots, although since I brought the very tiny little carrots, because purple carrots are very hard to find this time of year, but you can grow those yourself too, pretty easily. And the fun thing about the purple carrot, which you maybe already know this, is a different color inside. So that's what makes them really fun to do, use in recipes. And I tried grating one, but I value my fingers, so I couldn't grate too many of those. So I just kind of cut those in pieces. And that's gonna add some crunch to what we're having, as will the pickled onion. The recipe called for purple onions. I just used regular because I had some left over. So it still looks good, and they do taste good. Probably you can smell that once I took the lid off. Wow, that's pretty, pretty pickly. The recipe calls for, what was it about? Let me look back and see how many cups. 6 cups of cooked rice. So that made quite a pot of rice. So if you have a lot of people to feed or you're going to use this for leftovers, that's perfect. But otherwise, I suggest you cut the recipe in half. Yeah, and do that. I've never tried to freeze this rice. I suppose you could do that, but I think you would suffer a little bit with quality of the rice because you like that chewy, nutty flavor for sure. And I'm going to just make sure everybody gets to taste this, so because I love that rice so much, I want to make sure you will go out and get some for sure.
How much dry rice did you start with?
I started with, let's see, I started with about 3 cups, a little over 3 cups, because yeah, once I started measuring, I thought, wow, that's a lot more rice than I have. Let me see where I did have a bag left over. And I mean, when I go and buy it in bulk, I'm not even measuring, I'm just filling up a bag, depending on how much it is per pound. Because, that can, yes?
Where did you say you bought this rice?
Well, I did buy it at the Good Food Store, although I shop a lot of different stores, and not to say you couldn't find it somewhere else, but it was bulk. That's where I found it, the Good Food Store, yeah. Yeah.
They do have it there in bulk.
Okay. Yeah, and there is another store in town I've not been to yet that seems to have more special kind of products. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name even, but that would be worth checking as well. So, and again, not to promote Amazon, but they do have a good variety of things. If they don't have it, then it's going to be very, very difficult to find. So, and if it's something you use all the time, I would, if you could buy that in 10-pound bags, I would be doing that. So, because it will last a good long time. Okay. well, I think we're going to be ready to kind of put some things together here. Yes, yes.
Because I came in late, I may have missed this, but does black rice have some special nutritious value?
You know, it really has more nutritional value than brown rice. And because, of course, that rice is not stripped, all the good stuff stripped off of it like some of the varieties of white rice. But yeah, it's interesting to go in and read about it too if you really want to see the numbers and see what the difference is. So, and again, I mean, you're not going to probably eat this much rice, in a week. So it's like, if it's good for you, then you're going to eat it whenever you can, but you're not going to make it an everyday thing, for sure. Yeah. And just like we were saying earlier too, that you didn't get to hear, anything that's purple, dark colors, purples, reds, dark orange, dark green, those are certainly the best, most nutritious foods. And if you can get them, it's hard to get things locally, of course, because our seasons are short, but that's when they're going to taste the best and be the best. So that's why I suggest you do certain recipes in season, because you're going to get the best stuff. I did find plums because I, again, wanted just to provide kind of a visual, but you can kind of see the shape of these plums. Anybody take a guess as to where you think these came from? Other than Costco,
Australia.
Well, we are getting more things from them for sure. These were from Chile, and we tend to get a lot more from South America. And there's nothing wrong with that, that's great. But just imagine the travel time. I mean, once they pick the food and travels and then it gets here, which sometimes we feel like we're at the end of the food chain, aren't we, to get things here. But I mean, it tastes like plum, but it really doesn't taste a whole lot like plum. So it just depends on how badly you want something. The same would be for the eggplant, cabbage. I mean, we grow that pretty easily around here, unless you have a greenhouse and you can start things off early. Even the berries, like the blueberries, I think are from Mexico, and yeah, they're just not as sweet as what we can get in the summertime for sure. But, so as I say, try to eat seasonally and locally if you want the best flavors for sure. So, yes.
So I tried purple carrots thinking, health
Sure.
and all that, tried them out. And I don't like the consistency. I like orange carrots better. They're like sweet and not so starchy, I felt. Or is it just me on that day that...
No, not at all, because we actually did a carrot tasting, I don't know, when it was last summer or whatever, but all the different varieties of carrots that were grown in a particular place, there's a big difference in flavors. So not, knowing exactly the names of the carrot varieties, yeah, nope, you're right on. There's going to be some that aren't as sweet. And these probably aren't. If I've had the purple carrots right out of the garden, and yeah, they're amazing. But since these have, come from another place. So, and sometimes it's just fun. These are fun to put in a salad if you're just trying to make a statement, you want a lot of colors. But other than that, I don't think there's that, other than the sugar content, there's not that much more nutritional value in just the carrots themselves. But certainly in other things over there are, yeah. Like the purple cabbage would be much better for you than the green. But green cabbage is good too. Yes, Bob.
Have you ever used the black rice in stir fries?
I haven't because, but that would be a good thing to do, I'm sure. I think just because I like the flavor so much, I like it to stand out kind of on its own. Sometimes the stir fries we're always adding, oils, lots of different flavors, garlic, onion. And to me, it just seems like kind of a more delicate flavor. So, but yeah, you certainly could do that. Yeah. And like I was saying, you cook it in coconut milk with a little fruit on the top. It's the best thing ever. So that's another recipe. So yeah, like I say, anything with coconut milk, I'm all for that. So I'm going to chop the spinach up just a little because we did have a few stems. There we go. And isn't it funny how you get a giant box of spinach and it just gets cooked down to like a very small amount, but it's still very tasty. And plus, you still got that nice bright green color. So I think so many people, depending on how they grew up or what they ate, have a real dislike for vegetables because it's how they were cooked or cooked to death, or yeah, you lose a lot of the flavor. Okay, there we go. Yes, canned spinach. That's why you say that. Yeah, that's, I remember going back to that. And isn't it funny how, not to give my grandma a hard time, but she's no longer with us, but she grew up on a farm where they had the best food ever, but she had things out of cans. Yeah. So I don't know what happened, that disconnect, but because she really didn't like to cook, so it took took a lot less time to do that for sure. Because we talk about food memories here sometimes too, and my grandma made these apricot pies. They were like what they call hand pies today, and I thought, wow, it was the most amazing thing I've ever tasted. And so probably just a couple of years ago, and she's been gone for like 25 years. But I asked somebody in my family, wow, what was the crust on there? I'd never tasted anything like that. And he said, well, it was the canned biscuit she used. So she'd whack the can on the counter, roll out the dough, and then fry them, deep fry them. So, but anyway, yeah, they were very good.
Convenience too at the time, because I grew up on a farm too.
Sure.
And, I mean, you're working hard, and so anything that you can get that will make it a little easier, they thought that was
Exactly.
just.
Oh, sure. It was a convenience too. Yeah, yeah. And the fact they could go to the store and buy that stuff, didn't have to. Yeah, go to work. That's true. And I feel like we kind of worked our way to the other side these days. That's what we're always craving, is fresh food and looking for it. Yeah. So that's, I just get so excited when we're talking about produce. It's one of my favorite topics. Okay. So anyway, we've got pretty much everything done to put together. Like I say, the thing that takes the longest in this recipe would be the rice. So if you cook that ahead of time, you're good to go. And then the pickled onions. But you know, if you have those sitting around to be used in other things, then that's not that big of a deal. I've also hard-boiled a few eggs. And I like to buy some farm eggs because I have people close by where I live. But the one thing about farm eggs, which is kind of hard, sometimes they tend to look like this. So they just don't peel well, do they? Compared to some of the store-bought. Although I did put a little bit of white vinegar in the water, so that did make a difference. And actually, for this recipe, your hard-boiled eggs should be less hard-boiled, so they're a little soft in the middle. And in order to do that, these I intended to do that, but they just cooked a little too long. But it does look nicer, and you'll see in the picture on the recipe on the front page. That's kind of how it should be. Unless you have an aversion to that. I know some people really want their eggs cooked all the way, but anyway, so that's going to be part of our, and I apologize for some of you who get an egg that doesn't look the best. I intended for them to all be good. So, cut some of these in half. Another thing, this is a fun recipe for kids or for grandkids, because then you can just sit around and everybody can kind of put all these together. And, you know, it's just kind of an art project. They look at it that way. Okay. All right. So, in fact, I think because we have such a great group today, what I might do is just have you come up 3 or 4 at a time, and I'll put your rice there, and then you can kind of top it with other things and arrange it the way you would like to. Does that sound okay? And if you'd rather me do it, I am happy to do that as well, but I didn't want you to miss out on the fun part of doing this. I'll put the dressing on for you for sure. Yes.
Consider adding beets to this, or is that too overwhelming?
You know, I I think it's open to a lot of things. Sure, you could do beets. I probably would like to roast beets a lot. So you want to make sure you have that variety of flavors that you don't have. Because I think if you were to use pickled beets, the fact that they kind of bleed over everything, for one thing, and it plus is kind of a pretty strong flavor. But yeah, beets are good. Again, you could do a little steamed cabbage to put on there. Just a lot of different things. It's not a set recipe, just do it this way. And I spend a little bit of time on YouTube looking at different recipes and how people do them. And so if you look up rice balls, the one particular person I watched was very entertaining, but they had some of the same regimen to all of this. They just put chicken, they did like a chicken skewer to put on the top, which is good too. But everybody likes to do these because of the convenience. The cost is usually pretty minimal, but just the flavor and the nutrition that you can get all that pretty quickly. So, yeah. Okay, well, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll start this one. Not that you're going to use this as a model because I want you to do your own thing, but I'm going to add, and you know, if you're using these as single servings, I don't think you want to overdo it with rice, but that's about a cup, and that's probably about all the rice you would want to eat for sure. Okay. Let's see what the next step will be here. Then we're going to put a little bit of spinach. The crunchy things are going to go on the top. Oh. Okay. And you're not going to put like, you know, a pound of everything because this is a single serving. So just a little bit to make a nice color. All right. And then we're going to start putting things on the top. So right here. Okay. Because our dressing will go on kind of last. And it's not like you want to put everything just, we're going to kind of put things off to the side so everything stands up on its own. These pickled onions too are have very few ingredients. A little red wine vinegar, a little honey, which is nice. She tends to use honey a lot, which I like that sweetener. And let me see if I left out anything else on the pickled onions. And I usually make those like a day ahead. Let's see.
How long will your pickled onions last?
You know, they'll be good for about a week, I'd say, the most. Yeah, because then they'll kind of start taking on a little different flavor. But she just uses red wine vinegar and honey, and that's it. So, not that that's the only recipe there is. There's a lot of good ones. And you say, you can, if you don't feel like that's quite the flavor you want, I sometimes add a little rice vinegar with the red wine vinegar. Okay? So anyway, but you don't want to overpower the bowl either. So we're going to put that a little bit off to the side. We're going to use a little bit of the carrot here. You can use the bigger carrots and make kind of big curls. That always looks nice. All right. And a few bean sprouts. Just to add a little crunch there, we'll put those off to the side. Okay, a little bit of our egg here. All right, let's see, what have I forgotten? And then it calls for chopped peanuts, which is fine, but they're not always my favorite. So sometimes I'll chop, this is like a macadamia nut, it's a little bit sweeter. But you can use cashews, you can use almonds if you want, silvered almonds, anything, yeah. And if you're watching your sodium, again, that's why we chose a low sodium soy sauce, but a lot of nuts are salted already, so you have to really pay attention to the label if you don't want them to be salted. So buying the raw nuts, you can chop them up yourself too. All right. And then we have some green onions right here that we've chopped, so let's kind of sprinkle those over a little bit. Bit of chopped over here. And then after we've done that, which you can see, just a little bit of everything in there, then we're going to take a little bit of our sauce here. And it doesn't take very much. And then we're just going to kind of drizzle it over. That's another thing. I think we get so used to, and I've noticed that in a salad too, that when people put dressing, it's like a lot on there. So you're kind of covering up the flavor of everything. So then you lose what our whole point was. So that's why there's not as much there. And if you choose to stir it all together, that's fine. But just to start with, it looks nice, like something you would want to try to eat. So that is our rice bowl there. So anyway, so who's ready to come up and make your own? Anybody? Or I'll make some and pass them around too. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, but it's like, yeah, good food doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. That's how we do a rice bowl. I hope you will make one at home, and happy cooking. See you next time.